What is going on, guys? Another Blip Run vlog. Got kind of a busy day today. We won't be able to stay at Blip very long. Got my kiddo back here with me. And she is strapped to me like the monkey she is. Had one hell of a day yesterday. Rode the S2R 1000 Monster and was on I-70 and was turning around the Jackson curve westbound and hit the biggest pothole of my life and did about $3,000 worth of damage to my motorcycle. Bent the wheel, both tires are screwed, and the wheel itself is $2,000. So there's another big old pothole to dodge. Yeah, total crash out. On my 30th birthday, went out there and did $3,000 worth of damage on my absolutely mint condition S2R 1000. So I got that going for me. But today is a new day. We are going to vlog, relax. The weather is flawless. I don't know how we are mid-July right now and not dying of heat exhaustion. It's truly a blessing. Cute butt. Yeah, it was crazy yesterday. It hit the pothole on our way to Bisou Cafe, my little favorite French cafe to go to. Just wanted a coffee and a croissant and just go ahead and spent the check on a new wheel. And then I rode up to Reno's Power Sports, our Ducati dealer. I was looking online at like used wheels and stuff like that, but they're all coming and they're scratched and scuffed and look like the bike's been wrecked, and I'd rather just call insurance and just let them handle it. I pay $400 or $500 a month just for motorcycles, not including the cars or the house or my life insurance policy. So they get their money out of me. They can go ahead and handle this one for me. But yeah, it's crazy how like a pothole like that can literally just, like, if I was a worse rider than I am now, I likely would have went down. The pothole was so bad. It completely shook the bars, kicked the whole ass end of the bike down as soon as it came up out of the pothole. Both tires cleanly went right in the pothole. And I mean, this is on I-70. This is what's so crazy. And it's in the travel lane, it's in the middle lane. But yeah, today's a good day. Hit up Blip, then we're going to Fox and Pearl, hang out with my cousin. Both of our birthdays are within 3 days of each other, so just gonna go have a little celebration. Got my chitlin back there, just enjoying the air. Bit of philosophy. Old Nietzsche says you can make hell of heaven and heaven of hell. Everything's just a mentality. So I like to have a good laugh, try and lighten up the mood a little bit when bad things happen, try and find humor in it. I used to work on big 17,000 pound diesel engines German diesel engines that we used in the oil industry, and it was a really, really hard, heavy job. I mean, we were out there in 100-degree heat, working on hot diesel engines, burning our arms on exhaust, burning our fingers off, building these things. And I always noticed, looking back now, the humor and the jokes are the things that stayed the longest in my memory over the harshness of the job. And I always try and keep that mentality. No matter how bad the situation you're in, if you can just make light and humor of aspects of it, tell a joke or two, or just bring yourself outside of yourself. So in the moment, you're dealing with anger, you're dealing with frustration, but if you just take a deep breath and you pull your mind out of that situation and you just look down on yourself in the situation, you look at your whole life and it's not that bad. Usually 9 times out of 10, your life wholeheartedly isn't that bad. And it just doesn't sting as bad anymore. Spent some time working on Cole's bike this weekend. It had a coolant leak, and we traced that back up to the cap, so we went and got a cap for it, put a new coolant filler neck on it. It's so crazy with these bikes. They're, you got to take the gas tank off to really do anything to them, and you got to take the front fairing off, and it's kind of involved. We were going to do a full coolant flush, but it's probably fine. Then I did an oil change on this baby Friday night after work, came home. It's crazy, the valve cover here, you take that off to fill it, and it has a fill port on the jug itself so that the lines of the engine are not compromised in any way with a filler on it. I think that's just glorious German engineering. Aesthetics over everything with this motorcycle. The seat's hard as a rock on this thing. The riding position here isn't ideal, but good God, does it look good rolling down the road. We'll have to get some exterior shots. I'll make Cole ride it someday and then vlog, let you guys see this battleship rolling down the road. It reminds me of the Bismarck. The Bismarck was a German battleship that was absolutely legendary. It lived an extremely short life, but it went out in the most glorious and heart-wrenching way possible. In May of 1941, she was out there doing convoy, patrols, basically hunting supply ships coming to Britain. So she was out in the Straits and out in the Denmark Strait area looking for ships coming from Canada and America to supply the war effort to Great Britain. And she was out there with the Prince Eugen, which was a heavy battle cruiser that was brand new, that Germany, both the ships were basically brand new out there on their sea trials. And it was the scariest thing ever, because the Bismarck was one of the fastest battleships on the ocean. So if she was at full speed, she could get in, do massive amounts of damage to convoys. I mean, massive. She had 8 15-inch guns that would throw Volkswagen Beetles up to 24 miles. It was one of the first ships with radar. And it was just a force to be reckoned with, and all of Great Britain was just scared shitless of it. Because at the time, Great Britain only had a couple of ships that could go gun to gun with her, and that was the Hood, King George V, Rodney, and the Nelson class that could even really throw a punch with her. And it was kind of crazy. They were out there in the English Channel, and they weren't looking to get in a fight, a gunfight. But Prince of Wales and HMS Hood went and hunted her down. And the engagement started early in the morning. Hood started firing, made the first shots towards the Bismarck. And Admiral Lutyens was the commanding officer of the ship, but he had another commanding officer on there that was the commander of the Navy, that was a very high high-ranking guy that really could call the political shots on the ship, and she was under fire for like 4 or 5 minutes before Bismarck fired back. And there's amazing footage that survived the war of that engagement on YouTube. You can look it up, and it's black and white, but there's full color or full sound. And man, you turn your stereo up and you hear them guns retorting on that ship, man. It's biblical. I mean, the Prince Eugen was filming from the starboard side, maybe about a half mile away from the Bismarck, and you can feel the shell fire in your chest. And you can watch the footage and see the incoming rounds from Hood hitting the water, and they just shoot these massive columns of ocean water as soon as those shells hit the water. And the engagement was super short. Hood only got a few shells in, and Bismarck laid one right in the magazine in Hood, and basically picked the entire ship up out of the water, split the ship in half, and killed about 1,400 men in probably less than 2 minutes. It was truly horrific. It was an absolute headshot on the Hood, and I think only 3 men survived on the Hood. Ted Briggs was one of them, a great guy. I've read his book. Ted Briggs was just an amazing man, and he's super emotional because his commanding officer on the bridge just motioned to him, hey, you go ahead, after the explosion happened. And Ted just barely made it out. I mean, just barely. And that commanding officer not jumping out of the ship before him is the reason that he still walked the earth. It was harrowing. You got to think an English village at the time, back then, was roughly 1,500 people. So you got to think 1,500 young boys in an instant were killed with a shell from the Bismarck. And that's just the beginning of the story, honestly. Right after that, you know, everybody was on red alert after the loss of the Hood. And the entire Royal Navy came after the Bismarck. The first engagement was, I think, from Ark Royal with a bunch of swordfish biplanes, tiny little balsa wood and canvas planes that they could strap torpedoes to. And those guys flew so low that the landing gear was cresting the ocean, you know, on high swells, so that they could get under the gunfire of the Bismarck and come underneath the guns of the Bismarck, because if they'd have had any more altitude, they'd have had their shit blown out of the sky. I think Bismarck at the time was firing her main battery of 15-inch shells at those planes, level fire. Even if one of those shells came near that ship, just the air pressure of that shell moving past would have knocked the plane out of the sky. So pretty harrowing, but they put a torpedo in Bismarck's rudder, and she was pretty much fucked from going full speed after that. And then after that, it was just as much evasive maneuvers as humanly possible to get her out of shell fire, but just eventually Rodney and King George came in for the kill, and they weren't just looking to sink the ship. After the loss of the Hood and the total devastation, they just took blanket shots at Bismarck and just slowly massacred her. Just hit every gun platform, every battle station they could with their main battery. Rodney fired so many shells that the paint melted off of her guns. I think she fired over 300 shells herself into the Bismarck. And if you look at the wreck today, it shows. But it truly is a testament to Germany. I think they scuttled that ship themselves. They just couldn't bring her down. She was so strong of a battleship. But it's just, it's kind of crazy when you think about those engagements in the waste. You know, Hitler after that said, you know, the Bismarck was worth, I think, 1,500 Tiger tanks and steel. And there she is at the bottom of the ocean, which would have completely changed the tide of the war had, you know, they not invested their money in capital ships, because the German Navy, I don't know if you know, but after Jutland, she's had a terrible track record with naval engagements. But that's just me hardcore riffing a cool piece of history. That battle to me means a lot to me. It's crazy. Lucian's got on the radio after the Hood. You know, everybody was cheering on the Bismarck, but only Lucian's was sitting there shitting his pants, knowing exactly what they had done and that there was no escaping. and they offered everything up to the boys on board, and I think only 300 men survived of the 2,500 to 2,300 man crew on the Bismarck. And now she lies at the bottom of the ocean. Look at that, I just yapped us all the way here to Blip. We're almost there. Ooh. Thank God my kiddo doesn't have a Cardo and she didn't have to listen to that. I apologize you guys got to, but I just wanted to riff it. There, what do we got, a Buell? What is that thing? Yeah, oh, Buell. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I can't even imagine. There was stories of the guys that survived that, you know, Rodney's 16-inch shells hitting the armor plating on Bismarck, the noise and the concussion of the kinetic energy hitting that guys, you know, that were like 3 rows in were having their eardrums blown out from just the sheer pressure inside of the hull of those shells hitting the hull. And I just can't even fathom, you know, a 1,500-pound armor-piercing warhead hitting plate steel, big German steel, Krupp steel on the side of that. Krupp's the company that manufactured those battleships, and Tirpitz, and a lot of those big capital ships that Germany had back in them days. I can't even imagine being trapped in there. Just a young guy, probably 18 years old. You haven't really experienced much of life, haven't done a whole lot. And here comes the Lords of War coming after you. And yeah, and they just pretty much circled it. It was almost like Pirates of the fucking Caribbean when come after that Royal Navy guy's ship and just blow it to smithereens. It's like, have you ever seen the movie Shooter? It's like, nasty son of a bitch. He didn't shoot to kill, he shot to wound. And that's kind of what they did there. Robert Bell, another plug. Greatest performance shop in Kansas City for vehicle customization. Here we are, riding the old German battleship myself, my beautiful R-18. Oh, we got a decent crowd today. Old Mark out here with the CVX. Boy, that man's got some sick-ass boomer bikes, let me tell you. Man, oh man. Let's see here. Let's see if I can use them thighs to bring this old ship into port. And we're here, kids. End of vlog. Sorry for the unsolicited history lesson, but I hope you enjoy, kids. Let me see you, Chitlin. I love you.